This next section addresses how the government buys their goods and services. Public Services and Procurement Canada, PSPC, is a department responsible for the vast majority of the federal procurement. PSPC also works with other departments to assist in their procurements, thereby supporting effective, open, and transparent processes that provides value for Canadians. Certain types of purchases are managed by other departments where they have the expertise. For example, Shared Services Canada is a department responsible for many large purchases of information technology products and services. All departments have the discretion to purchase goods and services themselves under certain dollar limits. These limits may vary between $25,000 to $100,000, depending upon the good, service, or construction services. These smaller transactions represent the majority of government procurement. Most government purchasing is low dollar value procurements, requirements below $25,000 for goods and below $40,000 for services and construction, including all applicable taxes. This segment of the federal market offers a significant opportunity for Indigenous businesses. Purchasing is generally completed through a competitive process, regardless of the dollar value of the requirement, in view of obtaining the best value for tax dollars, choosing efficient suppliers, purchasing quality goods and services, and maintaining fairness and transparency. A non-competitive approach is only used in special circumstances, pressing emergency, life-threatening situation, or a disaster endangering lives or potentially resulting in loss or damage to government property. Public interest requirements dealing with national security, such as some military projects. Intellectual property, ownership. Only one supplier is capable of fulfilling the requirement or performing the work. Contract value, proposed contract within thresholds and delegation authority, that is $25,000 or less, goods, or $100,000 for services. There are 6 methods of solicitation that the government uses. 1. A request for quotation may be used to solicit bids for low dollar value commercial goods and or services valued below $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for construction and services applicable. I'm going to restart. 1. A request for quotation may be used to solicit bids for low dollar value commercial goods and or services valued below $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for construction, including all applicable taxes, from one or more suppliers. Bids may be evaluated and compared based on price and delivery, or on the basis of the lowest priced bid that meets the requirements. RFQs are not publicly posted and are by invitation only. 2. A telephone buy is a form of request for quotation, RFQ, where bids are solicited from one or more selected suppliers verbally, in person, or over the telephone for requirements below $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for construction, including all applicable taxes. A verbal contract may be entered into by telephone and order may be placed if the contracting officer has the appropriate authority. Written confirmation from the bidder is not required for bids received by telephone. However, the contracting officer must record the details of the telephone bid on the procurement file, and the order must be confirmed in writing by issuing the applicable contract document and providing a copy to the contractor. 3. An invitation to tender is used where selection is based on the lowest price. This method is used when all the following criteria apply. 2 or more sources are considered capable of carrying out the requirement. The requirement is adequately defined to permit the evaluation of bids against clearly stated criteria. The market conditions are such that bids can be submitted on a common pricing basis. It is intended to accept the lowest price responsive bid without negotiations, and the evaluation of bids will exclude any product, resource, operating, and contingency PROC, cost or socio-economic considerations rather than the employment equity provisions. An invitation to tender can be used to solicit bids through public advertisement on the government electronic tendering services, through direct invitation of selected suppliers by means of a source list where permitted, or by invitation of one source only if conditions for a non-competitive process has been met. 4. A bid solicitation can be used when the bidder selection is based on price or best value. A request for proposal, RFP, is a form of bid solicitation that is used when the bidder selection is based on best value rather than on price alone. An RFP should be used when, owing to the nature of the requirement, suppliers are invited to propose a solution to a problem, requirement, or objective, and the selection of the contractor is based on the effectiveness of the proposed solution. Bids are evaluated and the successful supplier is selected in accordance with specific criteria and procedures as set out in the bid solicitation. A bid solicitation can be used to solicit bids through public advertisement on the government electronic tendering services, through direct invitation from a pre-qualified list of suppliers where permitted, or by invitation of one source only if conditions for a non-competitive process have been met. 5. A request for standing offers is used to solicit proposals for standing offer methods of supply, which is one type of pre-qualified list of suppliers that government departments can use to solicit bids. A request for standing offer can be used to solicit offers through public advertisement on the government electronic tendering services, through direct invitation of selected suppliers by means of a source list where permitted, or by invitation of one source only if conditions for a non-competitive process have been met. 6. Finally, a request for supply arrangements is used to solicit proposals from suppliers for the establishment of supply arrangements, SAs, which is another type of pre-qualified list of suppliers that government departments can use to solicit bids. The government uses a variety of approaches to meet procurement requirements. This spectrum ranges from specific contracts, which precisely define the deliverables to be provided to a specific client by a specific date, to various procurement instruments for use by a single or many departments and agency for needs which reoccur often but are sometimes less well defined at the outset. There are essentially 3 methods of supply the government employs to procure goods, services, and construction. They are: 1. A contract is a method of supply for goods or services generally used to meet unique, well-defined requirements for a single client, but they may also be used to meet the requirements of more than one client. They are used where a standing offer or supply arrangement is not warranted. 2. The standing offer method of supply is used when it is possible to clearly define the requirement but expected quantities and timing are not known. For example, the level of effort or hours for the delivery of a service. This method of supply is used when the client or government is unwilling or unable to offer a minimum work guarantee or wants to maintain multiple sources of supply. 3. A supply arrangement is a method of supply that is used to establish a pre-qualified pool of suppliers to deliver a good or service that the government will require on a recurring basis, but where a standing offer is not suitable due to the inability to fully define the requirement in advance, and therefore there is a desire to compete the requirement. You may pause the screen to read and understand the details. To run more efficient procurement processes for complex projects or commonly procured good or service, the government will use a pre-qualification process, sometimes referred to as invitation to qualify, ITQ. Whether or not the government issues a request for proposal, RFP, contract, or call up in the future, it enables it to select suppliers who can fulfill specific requirements. Pre-qualification can be used not just for individual contracts, but also on a more general basis, such as for standing offers or supply arrangements. As previously mentioned, standing offers and supply arrangements are often used for goods or services that can be priced on a fixed or firm price basis, are required on a recurring basis, and can be supplied as is. For example, temporary staffing arrangements, office supplies, food, fuel, basic computer equipment such as laptops. The government will use this approach to save time and money and to enable multiple government entities or departments to acquire goods and services without having to run their own individual procurements. All suppliers must be treated equally, and procuring entities cannot discriminate against suppliers for any reason. The government must not require compliance with conditions and qualifications unless they are essential to ensure the supplier has the legal, financial, and commercial ability to undertake the procurement. You may pause the screen to read and understand the details. Commodity management. By establishing pre-competed procurement instruments for commonly purchased goods and services, the government can access goods and services more quickly while optimizing cost of ownership. Pre-competed procurement instruments, also known as consolidated procurement instruments, can result in, but are not limited to, standing offers, supply arrangements, task authorization, contracts, or government-wide contracts resulting from the commodity management processes. These are put in place between Canada and one or more suppliers for the provision of a specific commodity over a specified period, after which they are recompeted. The use of standing offers and supply arrangements is mandatory for the purchase of most goods and services, including the commodity groups included in this table. The government electronic tendering services, which has been mentioned throughout this presentation, is the Government of Canada's tendering system, which allows suppliers to search for bid opportunities online. This service is available on the Tenders mini site. Federal departments and agencies must be used. No, I'm going to restart. This service is available on the Tenders mini site. Federal departments and agencies must use the Tenders mini site to advertise their requirements subject to any of the trade agreements, while it can still be used for other requirements. Suppliers use the Tenders mini site to view and access bid solicitation and search for bid opportunities. You may pause the screen to read and understand the details. The government procurement process is comprised of 4 phases. I'm going to restart that. The government procurement...
Stop it. All over again. Ready?
Yes. The government procurement process is comprised of 4 phases. 1. Starting with the pre-contractual phase, which includes activities related to defining the requirements and preliminary procurement planning up to the issuance of the bid solution. 2. Phase 2, contracting, includes all activities from issuance of bid solicitation to contract award and debriefing. Phase 3, contract administration, includes activities such as progress, monitoring, delivery follow-up, payment action, monitoring, exercise optional periods and quantities.
I had to pause.
The government procurement process is comprised of 4 phases. Phase 1, starting with the pre-contractual phase, which includes activities related to defining the requirements and preliminary procurement planning up to the assistance of the bid solution. No, not the bid assistance. Okay.
Phase 1.
Phase 1, starting with the pre-contractual phase, which includes activities related to defining the requirements and preliminary procurement planning up to the issuance of the bid solution. Phase 2, contracting, including all activities from issuance of bid solicitation to contract award and debriefing. Phase 3, contract administration, includes activities such as progress monitoring, delivery follow-up, payment action, monitoring, exercise optional periods, quantity, etc. Finally, Phase 4, post-contractual, includes final actions and file closeout.